Ken, how you doing today, Ruben?
Oh, I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. So we ended up kind of going through it. You're the last one, man, but I believe
All
that
right.
you're gonna finish it off the
Grand
strongest, man, because
finale.
you're
Grand
talking about
finale.
money.
Exactly. That's what it's about.
All right, man. Well, look, everybody's been kind of doing like a Q&A type of thing, but I'm gonna let you do your thing if you want. I know you probably have a slideshow, right? To show. You want to share your screen?
I can. What I want to do though is I can go over some of that stuff for sure. Is there questions you think people have today that they really want to have hit? Topics that I can go over?
I mean, everybody's been. I don't know if you can see the long list of thing. I don't know if it shows it to you, but it seems like everybody's been pretty active today. So I'm sure they'll bring up some questions. But I think that the biggest thing. I mean, we've talked about influence. We've talked about health. I think with you, what people want to know is like, what should they be doing with their money? And I kind of in the beginning told them about the triangle of wealth. I didn't tell them exactly what it was. I just kind of maybe sparked their interest a little bit. So if you want to
Yeah.
share that, I mean, the floor is all yours. I can jump back in within the less like maybe 5-10 minutes, and we can kind of do some Q&A too.
For sure, for sure. So let's do that. So guys, if you're watching, thank you all for coming. This is an awesome conference. Ruben is a great guy. Ruben, thank you for having me, by the
Yeah,
way. I really
absolutely, man.
appreciate that. I want to keep this pretty informal. If you guys have questions, drop them in the chat. And I want to make sure that I answer, plenty of those. We'll have Ruben come up here as well towards the end and do some question and answer stuff. But I really want to talk today about what money is. And basically, when we're talking about things like influence, and we're talking about things like wealth, and we're talking about things like, how to build up your brand and how to be successful in life, for me, it boils down to really three things. And those three things are what my company is really built on. It's three areas. It's purpose, wealth, and freedom. Okay, purpose, wealth, and freedom. And those three areas are so critical because, when I look at like purpose is my why, right? And that may have been a topic that was covered today, right? What am I passionate about? What am I motivated about? What am I trying to accomplish? Why am I here? Why am I going to continue putting in work when really I don't have to? I could live more comfortably. I could, ignore a lot of the stuff that was brought up today and just go about my merry day and continue on with the way the life has been. But my purpose would tell me to do otherwise. Right. So if I have a purpose, it means that I have a reason, a motivation behind why I'm going to do things a certain way. And that's going to be what I focus on. All right. Now, many of us have a disconnect. This is where money comes in. Many of us have a disconnect between our purpose and what we're currently doing. Right. I meet people all the time where they're passionate about business, or they're passionate about art or music or helping people or whatever their area in life might be. And essentially what that comes into play with is that that's usually not what they're currently doing. Okay, currently they're usually working a job to pay the bills, and somehow the economics of their current life have to still be solved for. And so it pulls us away from purpose. So conversations like building a brand and building influence and being successful, while they're great, a lot of times we end up putting them on the back burner because that's not real. Right? Because we have to pay bills, we have to do this, we have the mortgage, we have the car, we have the credit cards, we got to make money, right? And so it's this thing where a lot of us, if we had unlimited time, and this is what I always like to go back to, if I had unlimited time, if I had unlimited oxygen or money, and the ability really to treat money like oxygen, right? We don't treat oxygen the way we treat money. We don't have this scarcity of, like imagine like how many breaths do I have left till Friday? That would suck, right? Living oxygen check to oxygen check, that would be a terrible way to live. So we don't do that with oxygen. The goal with money should be that we are able to do that. I believe for most people, if they were put in that position, they would do better things for humanity. They would live their purpose. They would start the business. They would build the charity. They would help their church. They would do better things for their family. We all have that in us, right? So again, purpose, wealth, and freedom. I have my purpose. If I want the freedom to actually live in my purpose, I have to bridge the gap with wealth. Okay, I'm going to say that again. If I want to live my purpose, have the freedom to live my purpose, I have to bridge that gap with wealth. Okay, and there's really three options that all of us have in this. You can kind of write this down. I went through this this decision point early on in life, guys. I'm 28 now. I've been in the financial industry since I was 18, and so early on in life, I had bad experiences with money. My parents got divorced several times from each other, remarried, divorced over money. When I was like 8 or 9, I watched our house get foreclosed on. My mom's car got repoed. We lived in a tent for like 6 weeks. Then we lived in a camper behind some guy's house. And so I had these bad experiences with money that caused me to essentially quit. When I was a teenager, I had quit on money. I vividly remember driving in my car one day and making the decision that, man, this money stuff doesn't work well and I don't see the point in it. I'm not gonna participate. Right. And all of us are faced with that decision. There's 3 ways we can go on this. We can go into poverty, which is what I did. I quit on money. I'm going into poverty because I'm just not going to participate. Right. Or we can essentially live in self-ignorance. We can say, all right, I'm going to sweep it all under the rug. I'm going to pretend like it doesn't matter. I'm going to try and have the house and the car and be able to go to Olive Garden every weekend and have cable and go on a vacation twice a year. And we'll just live in this very kind of, facade that we make to feel better about what's going on, when really there's a lot of lack of control in that lifestyle. We saw that in the past 2 months, being quarantined, losing jobs, all that stuff. The third option is wealth, right? So I can quit, or I can go into lack of confront, or I can build wealth. One of those 3 things has to happen. I initially chose poverty. I quit on money, chose poverty. My first 6 months of being married, guys, um, don't start your marriage like this, by the way. My first 6 months of being married, I was homeless with my wife, squatting in an abandoned house because I had quit on money. That's what that led to. And I very quickly and rudely was awakened to the fact that the economy happens whether I decide to participate or not. It will drag me along kicking and screaming. Right. So I looked at that and I was like, man, going into poverty, quitting on money, that didn't work. So I've got 2 options left. I can go into mediocrity and just not confront this and try and live a happy life and pretend that this really isn't going to affect me until it does. Or I can go try and build wealth. And I looked at the two, and I looked at my friends and my families and my peers, and all of those people were doing the second option. And I made the conscious decision, I'm going to go build wealth. Okay. Now, I didn't know what that meant. I didn't understand how to. I had never met a wealthy person. My family, no one really made more than $30,000 or $40,000 in a year. We were food stamps, food bank, free lunches in school, you name it, all of that stuff. Right. And so I didn't have this image of like, here's what I need to do if I want to be successful with money. Okay, I had to really start studying. So I started studying, and the problem that I ran into, and if you guys have ever run into this, drop in the chat. The problem that I ran into is when I started studying about money, the information was plentiful, but there was no way to verify if it was correct. Right? Because this whole thing, when you start studying money, I started studying, and it was all about when you turn 60 and retire, that's when you're free. So really, I have to kind of walk blindly for the next 40 years to find out if this money thing is really going to work. I wasn't comfortable with that. I started learning about it, and there was a lot of stuff that I saw that was just illogical, right? Like people saying, put your money here, do this, buy these things, invest in these things. And so when I really started to get down to the basics and the fundamentals of it, I was getting the wrong information. I was applying it and not winning with money. And then I just decided that it was this complex subject. Instead of saying, maybe the information is wrong. Maybe there's something illogical in what I'm reading, listening to, and following. Because if that was applied to anything else, I like to take the example of baking, right? If I was going to bake a cake, if I put brownie mix, cake mix, eggs, water, oil, and I put it in a bowl and stick it in the oven for 325 for 25 minutes, it's going to make brownies. It's not going to make anything else. Therefore, if I do that and it makes something other than brownies, there's something wrong with the ingredients, like literally wrong with the ingredients, or there's something wrong with the recipe, or I misunderstood. There's only 3 possibilities there. So if I'm following all of the right information with finances and I'm not making progress, there's either something wrong with my understanding of the information, there's something wrong with the ingredients, the things I'm applying to that information, or there's something wrong with the information altogether. Right. And I had to dive into that. So what I started learning was, wealth is actually a very simple topic. Money has been around for thousands and thousands of years. Every civilization has had it in some way, shape, or form. It's not a new thing. You can go back to like ancient Babylon. They were doing Forex trading back then, by the way. It's not a new thing. I know we see it on Instagram today and it's like, wow, Forex. They were trading currency like 3,000 years ago. Right. And so all of this stuff has been time tested. It's not a very vast subject. So like Ruben was talking about earlier, and I'm going to go and actually share my screen so I can give you guys the visual on this. What Ruben was talking about earlier is something we teach our clients. My company teaches our clients, called the triangle of wealth. Okay, and the triangle of wealth is very simple. Again, it's not complex. None of this stuff really is. And the reason why it's not complex is because it comes down to only three things. Okay, so let me go ahead and share my screen so you guys can all see this. So the triangle of wealth comes down to three things. I need to earn income, I need to save the income I earn, and then I need to invest that income. That's it. There is no complexity beyond that on how do I create wealth. Go earn income, save the income, and then invest the income. Now, here's the way this triangle works. I have to be doing all three of these things. Okay, so just doing one corner of the triangle is not going to help me. Just doing two corners of the triangle is not going to help me. I have to do all three corners simultaneously. And it's one of those things that can work for me or for against me as well. If I reduce my activity on one of these corners, it's going to reduce my wealth. Right. I used to be a financial advisor where I would help people retire, right? Get to 60 and retire. And they would immediately eliminate the first corner. They would stop earning income. That's not wealth, right? Because if I'm not earning income, I'm not continuing to create and perpetuate the wealth that I have. It's going to start shrinking. And that's why you see statistics on most retirees are going to run out of money about 10 years into the deal. Right? I have to do all three of these things. Now, conversely, this can really work for me. If I earn more income, it increases my opportunity to save money. If I save money, it increases my opportunity to then invest. If I invest and I invest right and it's an income producing asset, that investment as a byproduct should then strengthen the first corner of my triangle. I'm earning more income now, meaning I can go save it, meaning I can go invest it. And it just continues to expand and grow and grow and grow. Right? So this is the triangle of wealth, and it really comes down to these three areas. Okay, and so finances with this, like a lot of times people will see this and like, well, that's too simple, that's too easy, that's oversimplified. There's a lot more to it. There really isn't. Yeah, there's complexities and there's different things you could invest in, and there's different places you could save the money in. But I want to remind you that 100% of those things were all made up. A bank account, that was someone made that up. A 401k, someone made that up. The stock market, someone made that up. Right? So I don't need to get like hyper focused on the complexity and the nomenclature of it all. Nomenclature means the fancy technical language of it all. Like I said, I was a financial advisor. First thing they had me do, go take 3 tests with a bunch of freaking Greek on finances, bunch of made up language that didn't make any sense, memorize it, regurgitate it, and then go tell it to other people. That is a terrible idea. Nobody's going to understand money if I do that. So if you're looking at this and you're like, well, it seems a lot harder, I want to really start at the gradient of, well, what if it didn't have to be? What if it could be this easy? Right? What if it didn't have to be this complex, vast subject that just causes a bunch of misunderstanding and confusion? Right? So anytime someone's like looking at this, I want to remind them this is all just math. At the end of the day, can you add, subtract, multiply, and divide? If you can understand pretty much everything there is to know about money. Because the words we have, the fancy language, again, that's made up by people that are trying to sell their product. Okay. And it's perpetuated by those who are learning for status rather than application. Meaning an advisor will go pass a test and get a license and memorize the words so that they feel self-important and they can put the letters behind their name. And then they'll share that with you so that you think they're the god of money. And then you're like, man, they're a lot smarter than I am. I better give this to them. Right? So anytime you hear like nomenclature and it sounds complex and it sounds confusing and it sounds like unknowable, I want you to realize that there is nomenclature being used. There's technical language that's there that doesn't need to be there. And I always use this. I've been in the industry for 10 years now. I live and breathe this stuff. The more somebody has to use technical language, the less they understand their subject matter. Okay, I'm going to say that again. The more somebody has to use technical language, the less they understand their subject matter. The most sophisticated investors I know, they don't use big words with their money. They sit around a table and they literally draw deals out and they figure it out using, basic language. One of the top guys I know, every deal he does, he writes it out on a napkin. His philosophy and my adapted philosophy is if you can't write it on a napkin, it's not a good idea. If you can't draw it on the napkin and understand it to that level of simplicity, it's not a good place to put money. Okay. So all of this to say, like, when we leave these conferences, it's very easy to just get a motivational high and then not do anything. And I'm saying this is like ground level. I've got to leave here with the decision about my purpose and say, I have to go live my purpose, meaning I need to build wealth so that I can fund my purpose, right? Have abundance and prosperity in all areas of my life. And this starts with me implementing the triangle of wealth. All of it rests on this. Okay. Because if I can't do this, I can't do the other stuff because I'm still obligated to go to work and punch the clock and pay the bills and do all the other things that I have to do. All right. So ground level stuff, very basic stuff, very simple stuff. And at the end of the day, like the goal with all of this is an equation that I'm going to give you. Okay. Again, simple. Passive income, meaning money that I don't have to trade my time for, should exceed my expenses, my taxes, and my savings. If that happens, I'm financially free. I can do whatever I want to do with my time. Passive income exceeds my expenses, my savings, and taxes, right? And that's what I'm going for with all this. When I'm thinking about the triangle of wealth, I'm thinking about I need to get enough saved. So therefore, I need to earn more so that I can invest enough times to get this amount per month of passive income to exceed my expenses, savings, and taxes. And then I can just reverse engineer that entire equation backwards. All right. So I hope that that helps. I want to go ahead and open this up with Ruben for some questions. I do see one here. Question: were you the happiest in poverty or in wealth? That's a great question. So wealth, I define that as abundance and prosperity in all areas of my life. And so I was 100% happier when I have that. With poverty, like I didn't have options. Sure, I didn't have to participate in money to a degree, right? Squatting in an abandoned house, I don't have to pay rent. Like those are all, lessened responsibilities. But at the end of the day, I wasn't happy. Okay, part of for me, my viewpoint is it's very much tied to my potential. So if I'm ever living below what I know I'm capable of, I'm not going to be happy. And wealth is not even a me thing, right? It's abundance and prosperity in all areas of my life. Meaning, it is hitting me, my friends, my family, my churches, my religions, my community, mankind. Like as many things as I can benefit. That's the goal there. So Ruben, I want to just open this up just for some Q&A and see if anybody has questions. Maybe you and I can discuss a couple of topics you feel would be relevant.
Sure. I think that how much does somebody need to save and earn, right? Like what do they need to earn before they should start investing?
So that's a great question. Someone can start investing at any level. The question really is, what am I investing in? What I did and what I recommend is if I have very small amounts of money, I need to invest that back in my own knowledge, my own abilities. As you know, you can do that with $200, $1,000, $5,000, and do courses and study and all this other stuff. So I would say that that's where someone should start. With real investing, when I start getting into like acquiring assets, like income producing assets and real estate, my number is kind of I need to have about 50 grand.
Mhm.
That's my goal, and that's where I have enough to actually like make a really good decision. And a lot of people will balk at the 50,000 because it's not normal for people to have that kind of money. But I want to encourage you to try and do that, because the decision that you'll make as an investor with 50,000, think about that's going to be a much better decision than the $100 decision. Because it's
Yeah.
like, man, 50,000 is no small change. It took me a lot to get there. I remember every dollar I didn't spend, every hour I worked. I'm not just going to put that into anything. So it kind of builds in this protection mechanism of I've really got to make a good decision here.
So you stop spending the money that you would invest into like trying to invest and stuff like that. You focus on putting the investment back into you so you can actually earn more money. So you can get to that
Exactly.
investment point faster.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Okay. And then what was your first investment, an asset type of investment? Like did you do it right or was it the wrong decision?
I did it wrong. Okay. So again, I was a financial advisor. I was licensed selling, stocks, bonds, mutual funds. So the first time I got any real money, and I say real money, it was a few $1,000s.
Yeah.
I put it into a mutual fund. And I thought that was the right thing to do because that's what my licenses taught. That's what I was telling everyone else to do. And I put it into the mutual fund is in the stock market. So I essentially put it in the stock market, lost all control over the money because now the market has it, not me. And I didn't really understand that stuff. That's the crazy thing, Ruben. I passed all those tests I could give you all the technical right answers, but I didn't actually understand it. If you told me to demonstrate, what a stock really is fundamentally, I don't know, freaking it's invisible. It's not like I have anything, right? So that was the mistake that I made. And in contrast, later on, once I started learning and applying stuff a little bit differently, I took an equivalent amount of money and I invested that into a training program, a course. And I think that year I almost tripled my income. So that kind of shows the difference there, right? And it is, it's not silver bullets. There's a lot of application and study and work that goes into after the course, but the information in the course being applied is what led to me being able to multiply my income like that.
Oh, awesome. Great. Well, it looks like we're trying to get some chime-ins outside of investing in yourself, which we should do on an ongoing basis. How would you suggest that someone who is new to investing starts investing as an investing apps 401k real estate other?
That's an excellent question. So, Dr. Mark, on that one, I would really spend some time doing some research. When I talk about investing, there's really, where does investing come from? I think Ruben and I have talked about this before. When you go to the root word of invest, it actually comes from to clothe your capital. So literally, I'm putting clothing on my money, right? So I keep it simple. I relate that to when I'm dressing myself, I'm putting clothing on myself. It comes down to, what do I like? Not going to wear something I don't like. What do I understand? I'm not going to wear things I don't understand. Okay. What fits me, right? So I'm not going to wear clothes that don't fit. And also, what is going to be like useful as like a utility towards what I'm going to be using it for, right? So if I live in Alaska, which I do, I'm not going to wear board shorts outside in the middle of December. It doesn't fit the occasion, right? And so those are the things I'm going to look at. So there's not a one right answer of this is where someone should start. It should be, what do I like? What do I understand? What fits me, what fits what I'm going to be using it for, what fits my goals. And that'll help me really narrow things down and get rid of things that I don't like, that I don't understand, that don't fit me, that don't fit my goals, and they don't fit the things I'm going to be using them for.
Okay. Well, I mean, we're kind of at the end of it. Is there something that you want to leave us with? Something that you think that like people just are really, really mistaken in, that they should be paying attention? I mean, I guess we didn't do you a proper introduction, but this guy's on Forbes. Like, you know what I mean? Like you're a counsel to Forbes. And I think that says enough, like as far as like who you are and the fact that they even trust you with your advice. So what is it that people aren't doing? What should they be doing? What do they need to know?
Yeah, there's two main things. We live in a world today where people are not saving money and they're getting entirely too heavily involved with debt. And it's kind of, you can look at that I can see that on a small scale with individuals, but I can also see that with the way our businesses are run in a very broad sense, and also in the way that our governments are run in a very broad sense. So when I went back and I studied the top 1%, I looked over the last 100 years, what have they been doing with their money? The biggest thing that I saw, these guys save 40% of their income. They save it. I don't care what Robert Kiyosaki says. I don't care what Grant Cardone says. Savers are not losers.
Yeah.
This is statistic, right? These guys save 40% of their income. Now, they don't save it for a rainy day and do nothing with it. They save it so that when stuff like COVID-19 happens, they go buy everything. Okay, I saw an article posted the other day. The top billionaires in the world increased their net worths collectively by about $400 billion over the last 2 months.
Yeah.
Okay, Bezos has been stacking cash, right? Like these guys, they save money. So I think saving has been tainted. I think there's a lot of marketing behind like, don't save, savers are losers. And I get where that's coming from. But at the end of the day, if I had cash last month, I was very, very secure. If I didn't, I was very, very worried. And then second to that is, again, the debt thing, right? Never use debt unless it's going to increase income or reduce taxes. There's no reason to have debt on liabilities. That's where financial slavery starts. That's where I end up being, indebted to a bank and giving institutions 40% of my income. Then I can't save the 40 because I'm giving it to them.
Yeah. Yeah. We got another question right there, and I'm not going to try to read it because I have no idea what it means. So you can take a whack at that one.
So what do you think? What do you think of things like Reits? So Reits, that stands for Real Estate Investment Trust. It's basically like a mutual fund of real estate. If I invest in a REIT, I don't actually own any real estate. I just am part of a fund that gives me a certificate that says my fund invests in real estate. Because of that, I don't like REITs. There's two types of REITs. There's what's called a traded REIT, meaning if I bought it and didn't want it anymore, I could sell it to Ruben. So I have an out, right? Those ones are very low returns and there's very high fees. There's also something called a non-traded REIT. Means if I buy it, I'm not allowed to sell it to anybody. It's illegal. So if I get into a bad REIT, I'm kind of stuck until they decide to go public or it goes out of business or they let me out of my contract. So I don't like REITs because of that reason. I think limited partnerships can be good. A limited partnership would be, maybe like Cardone Capital or something where I really am a partner in the real estate. It can be good. It depends on the manager and the deal. There's a lot of things that go into that. And to answer this question from Brad, I like private lending. So instead of like being a REIT fund investor or a limited partner, I like to be the bank. That's how I do a lot of my real estate deals. So I'll get my 50,000 or my 100,000 and I'll loan it to a fund. I'll say, hey guys, I'm going to loan you my money. I'm going to charge you 12% interest a year. You'll pay me every single month. We're going to do this for 5 years. Then you give me my money back. And if you don't, I'm going to take away your thing, right? So if they're buying apartments or mobile homes, I have the passive income. I don't have to worry about being a landlord. I don't have to manage tenants or any of that. I just get paid every single month. And if I don't get paid, I foreclose, take the asset. They cover my court fees because I write that into my contract. And now I'm the owner of the property. So that's kind of how I would go about that. But I love that question. I think a lot of people mistakenly might get into rental properties, not knowing it's not passive when you start. It's very much, sweat, evenings, weekends, hustle to be able to build a portfolio up. And you've got to expect that if you're going to go into it actually buying rental property.
Yeah, you got one more right there. That was great, by the way.
Yeah, what are some good companies or things that are good to invest in now during COVID-19 for when the economy rebounds? So this is a little bit speculative, right? So what that means is it's kind of a gamble. Someone could argue like, hey, let's go buy Hertz. I had a guy message me the other day, should I go buy Hertz? It's $1 or something, and what if it goes up to $7?
I was thinking the same thing. Yeah, but yeah.
And I'm sitting there, I'm like, that's not investing. That's gambling, right? So I have to understand the difference between investing and gambling. Investing is where I don't lose money and I earn income. Gambling is where I buy something and hope it's going to go up in value or I can get rich on it. I stay away from gambling, right? So where I'm putting a lot of my money now is I'm very big on gold and silver. Okay. And on surface level, you might look at gold and silver and say, well, how's that any different from buying Hertz? Do some research on our economy. And if you want the shortcut, go to my YouTube. There's plenty of information on this. There's some very solid reasons why gold and silver are a fundamental thing to invest in right now. The other thing that I love right now is, and you kind of have to be in a position to be able to do deals like this, oil and gas investing. Okay. And I'm not talking about stocks. I'm talking about investing in oil and gas fields, right? So I'm a client of and a representative for an oil and gas private equity fund. The end of this month, actually last week, we closed on a deal where we bought $108 million worth of oil and gas fields for $30 million. Guys, that's 30 cents on the dollar. Oil and gas will come back, right? It already did. It went down to $1 a barrel. It's up to like 33 a barrel. So just in that little spread, right? And it's not the stock because I actually want to own the field. I want to own the business, not just paper that they're using to raise capital. So that's something I would be looking at. Overall, though, like we're kind of in a weird spot. We haven't seen things totally crash yet. Okay, consumers have stopped spending, savings rates at an all-time high, but on the other hand, the government's pumping money into the system. It's kind of this weird stagnation. So I would say the safest thing right now, stack cash, wait a couple of months, 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, and see which way it tips. And you'll definitely know where to go.
Nice. Well, I think that might be all the questions. I mean, we're right on schedule for that. Hey man, I appreciate you coming on here. There's going to be a replay, like we said. It's going to go up on YouTube. It's going to be a shout out to everybody who couldn't make it today. Plus, I don't know if I think I might have not told you. I think you were the one I forgot to tell. But this was on Facebook Live, so you got a few more people.
All right.
Yeah. But no, I mean, I can't say how much I appreciate you doing this, and I can't thank you enough. This is a subject that I think a lot of people need to know that don't know. So if you guys feel like you want to know more about this, if you want to know about Jerry, Jerry, feel free to put your link down in the comment section. What we're also going to do is once this is all over, we're going to send the replay to everybody, like I said, but we're going to put your information, everybody's website. That way, if you guys want to reach out to these people, you'll be able to. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ruben. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man.